Welcome to Civitai.com, the home of the generative AI art community. If you enjoy this video, please consider hitting us with a like and subscribing, as it'll go a long way in helping us continue to bring you the highest quality AI community content. Please enjoy the video. What is up? What is up, everybody? Guys, welcome to a very special Friday Civitai AiR Roundtable session. This is our first one of many for these. For those of you that don't know, Civitai AiR is our artist in residence program that we have been, how long has AiR been active now, Chris? How long has this been going on?
About 7 months now.
About 7 months, and we are now going to start pulling in all of the artists in the current cohorts and doing these roundtables to, one, not only discuss what everyone is individually doing, but kind of letting everyone give their feedback to each other on their projects and being inspired by the cool and different creative ways that everyone is using this technology that we all know and love so well. So without any further ado, Chris, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can hand it off to our wonderful artist in residence to let everyone know who they are.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. So yeah, I'm Chris. I'm the director of the Civitai AiR program. So yeah, I mean, just quickly about the AiR program. Civitai AiR program is an artist in residence program, completely remote. So we can accept anybody from anywhere in the world. And we serve as an incubator and digital studio for the creative exploration of generative AI. We aim to investigate new techniques, applications, concepts, and ultimately break new aesthetic ground by integrating AI into existing studio practices. So you don't have to be an AI native to join the artist in residence program. And we'll probably get into some of that today because some of these tools are new for artists that are currently here today. And I think that's really exciting. So I will let all the artists introduce themselves. Why don't we start off with you, Inez?
Hey, everyone. Thanks. How long should I talk about what I'm doing?
For right now, let's just kind of keep it to like a minute or two, because we're going to circle back to everyone and get in detail with what everyone's doing.
Sounds good. Thanks. Yeah, my name is Ines. I just started the Civitai program, I'd say 3 weeks ago. It's been a really good experience. I'm based in LA and sort of relatively new to working with AI. So yeah, I'd say that's about it.
Jason, you want to go?
Sure. My name is Jason Baylor Losh. I am a sculptor and a painter. I think I joined the program, what is it, Chris? It's probably about 2 months, a little over 2 months ago.
That's right, 2 months.
Yeah. My experience with AI was relatively limited. I had made some AI avatars of myself. I was trying to hawk my own artwork with them. And everything that I have learned from this program has been within the last 2 months, and it's been incredible. It's been a really great journey.
Awesome. We love to hear it. Keion, why don't you tell the people who you are?
Hello, my name is Keion Kopper. I'm 27 years old from Brooklyn, New York. I'm a painter, a poet, mostly focusing on painting right now. I have some paintings behind me. I'm a self-proclaimed archaeologist and paleontologist. So I basically travel the globe and dig up fossils from excavation sites and hang them on gallery walls. Thank you.
That's so sick. I definitely want to hear more about that. Anne, introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, so I'm Anne. I'm Anne Horel. I'm from Paris. This is why it's all very dark around me, because it's the middle of the night. I've been doing digital art for almost 15 years now, so digital tools are kind of like my jam. But AI it's been only 2 years, and this past 4 years I've been working on making digital physical. It's always been kind of like a thread in my work, but lately it's been even more the theme.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, even though it is the middle of the night. We massively appreciate it, and we can't wait to hear about what you're doing. Ira, my man, we have all met you, but why don't you go ahead and let the people who have not met you yet know who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Tyler and Chris, for having me, and it's a privilege to be among the rest of the artists. My name is Ira Greenberg. I have a long history in digital art going back probably almost 30 years. I'm probably a little bit older than most of you. And I was very involved in the early processing movement, wrote some books on processing, which sort of led to my interest in AI over the years. I am also a professor. I direct the Center of Creative Computation at SMU in Dallas. I reside in Santa Fe, and I have a visiting research appointment at Goldsmiths at the University of London as well.
Awesome. Well, look, just from the intros, I think probably the coolest thing already about the AIR program is how different everyone's disciplines and backgrounds are, and that everyone has kind of came together and melded under the same goal of learning this technology better. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and kind of kick off some of the project talk?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm kind of curious. So we have like, 2-ish people. Ira and Anne are definitely like in AI pretty deep. Not speaking for anybody else, but Keion, Jason, and Inez. Inez, you're sort of like middle ground. You're pretty familiar with the tools, but definitely Jason and Keion newer to AI implementations. Just kind of wanted to hear what it's been like entering this space. And yeah, just how it's impacted your practice as you sort of transitioned from, outside of AI, and now you're sort of becoming an insider to this new world.
I mean, I can talk from my perspective real quick.
Yeah.
I think I show in galleries and institutions and stuff, and I've been doing this for the last 17 years. You can tell by the gray in my beard. But I didn't have an idea about where AI was going to essentially take me. And I think when I started the program, the idea was to show how AI could be used in a studio practice and integrated it into sort of an everyday workflow, so that the work that was coming out at the end wasn't necessarily produced by AI, but the content that is helping that production is AI throughout the entire process in the actual studio. So I think the development of understanding the tools and stuff over this period of time, and very truncated period of time, has been incredibly helpful with the Civitai team. And without that, I don't think I would have understood where to even begin to start. But now with Automatic 1111 and working with it on a daily basis, it's been pretty incredible.
Yep.
We love to hear it.
Yep. And both you and Keion are painters. I mean, typically, or I guess you're more traditionally a sculptor for more of your career, but you've been moving into painting recently. Keion, do you want to speak a little bit to maybe where you're at with the new tools? I know that you're a little bit new, and we were meeting about how to refine your LoRa's. And we'll, I think the next step is maybe hooking you up with Tyler or somebody on the team if you're not quite getting to that position where you want to be with your LoRa's, but maybe you can speak a little bit to how it's been for you.
Well, following up on what Jason said, I just wanted to say his sculptures are really cool. I checked out his Figma; those are really cool. For me, I was trying to figure out how AI can work. I'm working on a lifelong project in art with the fossils, so I was trying to figure out how AI can just streamline the flow of what I'm already doing and not trying to do something on the side. Like everything that all the skills that I accumulate in my life, I want to go down this like one vehicle, and every skill is like a person in the car. So yeah, that's about it. But I've only been in it for like 2 weeks, so I'm still learning like how to train models. I'm just playing around with it, playing with prompts. But yeah, I'm still learning, still in the learning stages. Yeah.
Well, the rabbit hole only gets deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could say something about the program and like just working on it for the first 2 weeks about this too, I think the way the program works too is Chris is meeting with all of us weekly. Mm-hmm. So we're doing studio visits. And I think for me, the first 2 weeks were some of the hardest parts because I didn't have anything to talk about in the studio other than trying to understand what was going on in the tech. And it took me almost a good month before I could start using it to produce what I thought could be used in the work. I think it's just that developmental time is really important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ines, how has your experience been so far since jumping into all this head first?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'd say this, I just got done with the kind of UC graduate school mill. I got through that, and the conversation about AI has been very on the sort of theoretical, conceptual realm, and kind of being able to jump into this residency and have discussions with Chris. It's been really nice because it seems like it's definitely, there's a community, this discussion, like Chris is here to facilitate that, and it's been nice to also be given the freedom to kind of use all different types of AI-based apps, but also kind of see how Civitai has packaged some of that technology. And yeah, I don't know, I'm fascinated by the kind of conceptual framework. It's been nice to have a more hands-on feel on like how to use those tools. And also using a Figma board, I've never used that before. Truly enjoying the process. So yeah, that's been really positive. I'm excited to keep going. I'm at the beginning of the project, so it's always a little bit of like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then it starts to reveal itself in a nice way. So
it is all good, as we always say around here, or as I always say. My favorite thing about what this technology allows us to do is it allows us to get from idea in our head to our bad ideas on the screen quicker than we ever could before. So hopefully we can get through those bad ideas so fast that we can iterate and get to our good idea even quicker than before.
Yeah.
But
Tyler, I think one thing that maybe just popped into mind as a framework for, which I've been kind of thinking about, but maybe we look at each artist's Figma board. I mean, we've got 5 artists here, about 50 minutes left. Maybe we can give like 5-10 minutes and just have each artist encounter, each other's work and just sort of like walk through people's in progress works. How does that sound?
Okay, cool. Yeah. If it's all the same to you, I would love to start with Ira, and then we'll jump to Anne, and we'll just kind of work our way up the chain, since Ira and Anne probably have the most experience with digital tools like this out of everyone. So let me pull up Ira's board right here.
My Figma board is quite incomplete, but
it's all good, man. Don't worry about it. Just so that the people have something visual to see as you're talking about it.
Yeah. So I should just reference, so like my background is sort of like some people here, it was in painting. For both my degrees are actually in painting, and I continue to draw and paint. You can see behind me a little bit. And then I had this coding thing happen, right after grad school. So it became code for many years, creative coding, not in any kind of practical sense, just to kind of make weird shit. And then the coding led to, wanting to do, in a sense, imaging or create images with code, which is pretty problematic. So I created some weird systems of doing it. But when I found AI, it just seemed like it put everything together. So I got completely obsessed with AI and remain so. And I also got involved, something I haven't talked about, which maybe is controversial, but I got involved with some startups, one particularly involved in blockchain. So I'm a co-founder of a platform called Emergent Properties, or MProps, and we build AI tools in there to do generative AI with an optional code interface that goes directly to blockchain. People can mint NFTs, and so I was, building it with them in a sense, and mostly doing like prototypes and creating my own creative projects. The project now, we were originally with Automatic 1111, which someone mentioned, and now we're going much deeper into Comfy UI. That's one of the things that's changed a lot for me. This residency was an opportunity to just go headfirst into Comfy UI. I had played with it, but I had never really gone deep into it. And now I have this new love affair. In fact, I was telling somebody that it feels like processing 25 years ago, if any of you know processing. And after I finished writing my period in my academic career, I wrote all these books. I said, I'm never going to write a book ever again. And I have to say lately, I've been thinking about a book on Comfy because it's such a powerful environment. It's much more powerful, I think, than people even realize yet. But so these projects are different explorations. I have my home aesthetically is very much early Renaissance. So I'm kind of obsessed with people like Piero and Mantegna and Bellini. And my work now, I started my life as a painter doing very observational based stuff. That's my training, very classical, but always working within motif directly. And now my work is totally generative and emergent. Like I just start scribbling and then sometimes these drawings take me a year and I just don't know what's going to happen. And then I just do them and come out of them. And I'm starting to do some of that in painting as well. And then there's the AI, the integration of the digital stuff with the kind of analog physical material stuff has always been a high tension point for me. I don't know if it's just, the way I was raised or how I wasn't, really a digital native in a sense. I didn't grow up with any of this kind of stuff in my background. And so it's always been like a very tense, it's not even an integration. It's like a tense battle between these different parts of myself. And maybe over the years it's gotten a little bit better, but I still struggle with that. So I don't know if other people feel that as well, but I can just get really deep down these different rabbit holes, whether it's painting or AI or coding. And then I come out and go somewhere else. But so I think for Chris, in some ways, trying to herd me a little bit has probably been a little bit frustrating, but I feel the same way about myself. So anyway.
Well, I think one of the really fascinating things about your sort of physical digital interface is like the use of, you, the artist, and the paintbrush as sort of implementing the process of diffusion and like understanding kind of what goes into that latent space and how images emerge from that. And then your sort of automatic painting and drawing practice, how that relates. I was talking to Jason a little bit about this too, how it's sort of like you become the filter or the cipher when you're painting from source material, even like it passes through you and you're trained on certain, sets of images. Maybe for you, it's more classical, Renaissance images that influence, those are your Lauras, right? But anyway, I like to think about those concepts when you're kind of moving from digital to physical.
So I have one question for you before we turn the floor over to someone else. So as someone who clearly, for as long as you have been in it and using generative tools and using generative stuff to make your art, getting into Comfy for the first time, what advice would you give to someone who's having a difficult time kind of grasping how Comfy works and moving around in that environment? If, let's say, it's maybe their first time working with something that's node-based like that.
Yeah, I think the challenge with this sort of thing, depending on your makeup, is you can get really obsessed with the engineering part of it and lose sight of why you sort of got interested in the beginning. So I tend to lean on get completely lost in creating, just make until you hit this boundary that you just can't make the next thing you want to make, and then learn some more stuff to do it.
I really like that. Keep going till you hit the wall and then figure out how to either break the wall down or climb over it. I like that. Awesome. Well, Ira, thank you so much. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have been working on here?
Sure. So if you zoom in here, this is the process of taking some images I've made with an experimental model for DALL-E 2 to DALL-E 3 that doesn't exist anymore. So it's kind of like, one thing I really like about AI is that there is a dependency in a way on the model. If the model disappears, what you were doing with the model will disappear as well. Mm-hmm. And I've always called myself, I love the fact that Keion is saying that he's a self-proclaimed paleontologist. I'm a self-proclaimed digital archaeologist. I've been archiving for many, many years, like screen captures, images. I have like gigantic libraries of images, and I keep recycling all of these images in digital collage. So that's where I come from. And these images were made with this model that doesn't exist anymore, and they're like maybe over 40,000 images I made with it. I was like, I like what you said, Ira, about going into a rabbit hole. And like, it's my life. Like, I go into rabbit holes, and then I get obsessed by things. So this is the product of one of my obsessions. And I wanted to make them into physical objects. So I've tried a bunch of stuff. I've tried some laser imprinting. I've made neon lights. I do ceramics. So there are a bunch of different ways to put them into like a physical object. But with this residency, I wanted to utilize this to do something else. And first idea was to make plushes, because I mean they would look absolutely adorable into plushes. But you will see like during the process, I've been kind of like hitting walls, because unless I work in a one-to-one collaboration with an artist, it's complicated to have them made fabricated by like industries or stuff like that. So plushes were a no. So and that's something I really like working with Chris, is that each week we have a conversation, and the rebouncing is so nourishing, and he has these very great insights. So we're kind of like ping-ponging ideas, and this thing is like taking many forms. So the idea was to make them into 3D prints, which I did. I did the first test. Like, I did this pizza character, which is like very funny and wacky and thick. This is like basic. I've never done 3D printing before, and I wanted to try the different materials. So now I'm trying, I'm waiting for another batch made with resin to see how it looks. And then from this, there are a few paths. The ideal would be to make bronzes, which is like the ultimate incarnation of like, the cross path between very contemporary technologies and something that is like deeply ancient. Like, to me, the bridge between ceramics and AI is so interesting, because it's at the opposite of the spectrum. So bronze is another addition to this. This is like a few references from Kunz and Murakami. But yeah, now we are at this stage where I'm kind of like figuring out how to make a bronze. And in parallel to these bronzes, you will have like shirts with AR activated masks. So you would have like the bronze on the wall. This is for an exhibition. And then you can wear the t-shirt and wear the bronze on yourself in AR. I don't know if it's quite clear, but it's like kind of like a complex play of mirror between something that is like a unique edition and something that is not unique. That's like you can order, that would be on sale on the website. So you can wear the t-shirt without buying the bronze. And maybe that's the last thing I would say. Sorry, I'm a bit long. That to me, it's really important to have the collectors being satisfied, like traditional contemporary art collectors satisfied with like one piece, something that's kind of like a piece, and then not leaving apart people who don't really can afford maybe art, or maybe they don't care, but they like a t-shirt and they want to buy a t-shirt. I made some pins. Like I try to make like little objects that are affordable, and yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Okay, first off, the style on all of these are awesome. I love the style on all of these. I could literally, if you said there were 40,000 images of these things, I could sit here and scroll through all 40,000 of them all day. I love it.
They are.
If have you played with any of the like image to video models yet, like Runway or anything like that?
Oh, that's what I do all the time.
Okay, because I'm just like, I'm looking at these and I want to see them like animate and their eyes blink and watch the faces morph into one another. So like that's a whole other project, but no, really, really great job on all of this. I still think the plushies are worth revisiting and figuring out how to make those happen, because I'm sure those would sell for a lot of money somewhere.
It's harder than it sounds. At least with the one partner that we were looking at working with, they just took one look at these images and were like, no, like definitely not. Like we can't do that.
They also have some kind of like eyes wide shut costume ball mask things vibes going on, right? Like a Stanley Kubrick type film.
Stanley Kubrick with, I don't know what he was on, but it's not like it's not the dark Stanley Kubrick. It's the
Inverse Kubrick.
No, and thank you so much. This is absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
One thought, somebody in the chat said, I'd love to see these as NFTs.
They are.
Maybe you could work with Ira's platform MProps to maybe publish these as NFTs. Maybe there's a emergent collaboration to be had. So
he said Kubrick with Rob Zombie. All right. Who is next? How about Keion? I know you said your board was a little rough, but let's just talk a little bit more about what it is that you have been up to, even though you're at the very beginning of your kind of Civitai AiR AI journey here.
Nice. Hello. So I'm on phase 1, and at phase 1 I was just like detailing everything. So basically my goal is to create a fossil finder, an AI that can find fossils in different geolocations. So an AI that can find fossils throughout the globe. You're not gonna find much on the Figma, but I can show you finished products of what previous pieces look like from excavation sites. So I'm just gonna do that instead of
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna turn my screen off and we will full screen you.
So this piece here is a Mewtwo. It's a Pokemon fossil. And I put like real crystals in it and stuff like that. So like that's what I'm more aiming for turning my, like just digging up using the AI to find fossils, dig up the fossils, and then put these fossils on canvas. And each piece is like a super 3D. And yeah, that's basically it.
That's super cool, man. Do you have any, just from what you've seen in the AI sphere so far, from your limited experience, do you see any, or have you had any ideas for possibilities of maybe taking what you put on canvas with the fossils and then digitizing that into maybe like a LoRa, so that you could then create digital art using your canvas work that have actual fossils on it?
Yeah, so the next step is maybe using an AI that can turn a painting into a 3D model. So I can like 3D model some of these fossil pieces, but like the actual fossil itself. So now you have like a dinosaur, the actual dinosaur of the fossil, and then throwing it into Unreal, the gaming engine, and like having some fun with that. So yeah.
Yeah, man, it is ambitious, but it is cool. And it would be really, really rad to actually see that come to life. And I think it would be a great, like, first ever use case, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen. Yeah.
I know we were just talking about you creating like a physical DEX that all of your digital fossils live on too, which could be maybe a Raspberry Pi, like some sort of physical item that then all of your paintings are related to, or sort of, cast this web images from.
So everything is written right now in like a composition notebook, but each fossil comes with the information on the name of the fossil, the number of the fossil, where it was dug up, the geological timescale of the fossil, which means when this organism was actually roaming the earth. In each crystal is, I talk about the hardness of the crystal, the properties of the crystal, which like people believe like crystals have energies and they're good for certain things. I speak about that, a description on the piece. So yeah, I'm working. I really, really love Pokemon, and I feel like Ash, it was his lifelong dream to catch them all. So I kind of got to dig them all, if that makes sense.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
But slowly but surely, and I've only been painting for 3 years. Like I didn't paint when I was a child. I didn't draw. I didn't doodle. But a little like backstory on how I started with the fossils was I was like within my first year of painting, and Arterex, the brand, reached out to me. I knew the creative director, and they wanted me to do something for the store. And as you know, their logo is a dead bird, and I just challenged myself to do this like 3D fossil piece, and everybody loved it. So I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna keep doing this," and I really enjoyed it. And I just moved forward, and now I'm just like slowly building it out on like what exact direction I want to go.
Awesome, man. No, that's really cool to hear. That's really cool to hear. And it sounds like you have like the kind of the laser focus, and you know what the goal is. And I think when you have such a clear defined goal, then figuring out the way to actually bring that to life slowly becomes more clear and gets easier. And time relative to learning a new skill, it all just depends on how passionate you are about it. So I have no doubt that you're actually going to be able to do all that.
And you brought up stable diffusion. I kind of want to get into that. So yeah.
Well, that is what we are here for. Okay, cool. Jason, let's come to you, and then we'll jump to Ines. Let me turn my screen back on here.
Yeah, it's been great to hear everybody's stories. I think there's a lot of overlap in what we do and how we think about making work, and I would assume all the people watching, they're hearing some of the same things. For me, I went to grad school, and I went in as a portrait painter, and I left as a sculptor. So what I decided to do was just help create some of the compositions and stuff that I'm using for the paintings that I'm doing right now. Build a LoRa that was based on all of the sculptures in my studio and the stuff that I'm actually making. And I fed it all of that information so that I could start producing the sculptures through Automatic 1111, and then start incorporating them into the paintings. And then the rooms that I'm using, there was a lot of personal sort of connection to some of the images and stuff that I had been taking, like my grandmother's living room when I was a kid, those type of things. And you'd source these materials, but you always had limited quantity. So what I did is I took 250 images that I knew I wanted from different time periods over the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and started inputting them in to build models as well too, so that I can sort of infinitely now produce some of these compositions that reference back into the sculptures and stuff that I'm making directly in the studio, and the imagery that I'm using in other works as well too.
Dude, these look so cool. Can you kind of tell me from like the small image right here up to the larger one with the cat's head, like what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so the way these are put together is like I'm collaging images, right? So like they begin with, if you're looking at that sort of pink image, that sculptural image in the front, those are the images that are produced out of the LoRa that's creating the sculptures. So I made, this is one of like 300 and some that I just started producing, and figured this would go good with this composition that's in the background. That background image is produced with the LoRa that's creating the room. So when I'm tagging these as well too, it was sort of a play to figure out what checkpoints were going to work with the LoRas that I was creating, because I think one of the things about AI for me is that everybody's trying to reach this level of perfection where I want to sort of capture the stuff when it's fucking up and it's not working. Like, that's what's exciting, right? So like, as we move into this phase of like everything becoming perfect in AI, I think the idea that we can have all of these things on our own, like locally on our own computers, and save some of those bad ones, and the way that we can produce some of this imagery, I think that's just, it's invaluable. So as we go through here, these are just the different iterations of how I put the composition together and work through what is working and what isn't working in terms of the different pieces. And the cat's head, I mean, all of this stuff was coming out of like Alice in Wonderland. I have a giant painting in the studio right now that's like 6 foot by 8 foot, but it has like rabbits and stuff in it. So it's a combination of a whole bunch of different themes sort of working together. And the AI has been really, really helpful and invaluable in like thinking about different ways to produce the compositions. I had this conversation with Chris on one of the earlier ones. It puts things in places you wouldn't put them because it doesn't know what it's doing. And those are sort of some of the sort of magical moments in what happened with everything.
And Tyler, I think if you scroll down, you can see his actual training data sets. He put them all in this board.
Yeah.
And then some of the outputs as well. So all the way to the left is his sculptural training data set with some of his work in there, and then some, I think, work from a few other artists as well. And then
there's an Anthony Caro. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be able to have it when you inputted some of your captions and you wanted to say line. I wanted line to represent like an Anthony Caro piece. So then I cheated the system and I overlapped some of those images over and over and over again, and playing with those captions and figuring out what didn't work in the captions was as exciting. When everybody's here talking about going down a rabbit hole and this stuff, it really is. Like, I had to stop myself from training models and then go into actually making work.
So one of the things I like the most about what you said was kind of like the cool stuff that happens when stuff starts to break, right? When it's putting things in the places that you normally wouldn't. And in that way, I think the way that is really beneficial for a lot of people to think about this is more so than always looking at AI to do it for us, is looking at all these different tools as our actual collaborator, because as you're feeding it stuff and you're getting these like weird, surreal, broken things back that don't make sense, it'll give you ideas of other paths to go down that your brain that makes sense out of everything wouldn't have come to the conclusion of in the first place.
You're not even going down that road, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that's sort of magical. It's like when you're making a mark on a page too, and you're drawing or painting, sometimes it's that mistake or that stroke that you're like, how can I replicate that? That's what happens in AI sometimes. Mm-hmm. That if you can go down, I think even if I'm doing a lot of text to image, but then if you take some of those and you're going image to image, it really screws it up. And those are the special moments. Earlier, somebody mentioned as well too, or I think it might have even been you, where you were talking about the volume and creating this volume of work. Mm-hmm. And I think what a lot of artists don't understand is that 80% of the stuff that comes out of the studio is bad. It just doesn't work. 10% is okay, and then the other 10% is good. You have to be prolific in making reams of things to get to the really good stuff.
100%. You cannot, no one, unless you are very lucky, very few people, I'm sure Ira and Anne will agree with this, since you guys have been doing this for a very long time. Very rarely is the first thing that comes out the final thing that you're going to roll with.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm trying to show in there too, showing the beginning stages. Normally I would never show this stuff, the beginning stages of some of those compositions. That painting, that orange one, is the painting that's in the studio right now that's being worked on. Go ahead.
I want to say something to Jason and get his perspective on this, but sorry, I'll take a second. But it's people like, you come from traditional art also, and many of our colleagues are not in digital all, at all. Just this stuff is too deterministic, etc. And they don't understand that the ability to subvert these tools, to break
Wait, sorry. I muted Jason just for now, just while you're talking, Ira, because you had some background noise going on.
Did you finish? Sorry, I think we could, the last part of your sentence got cut off there.
Oh, no, I was just saying that, like, there's a lot of resistance by people who come from very traditional, people who have MFAs in art who are not digitally oriented, dismiss this a lot. I mean, I see it at the university and stuff like that. And what Jason's talking about, that the breaking, the kind of these edge cases, the sort of, the stuff that's emergent, they don't get that exists in these tools. They think they're just so deterministic and mathematical.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's bringing, and I think what's really important about the AIR program too, is it's breaking those boundaries and showing where these things can be used and how they're used, and like a functional it's not scary. You should be using it like any other medium.
Yeah. And we are really teeing this up perfectly for Inez too, because her work, at least here, is a lot about breakages, slippages, and all that.
And real quick, before we move on, let me just say, I love this white rabbit. It reminds me of the bunny from the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Everything, by the way, everything in the composition is real except for the rabbits, and AI popped that rabbit right in there. So that's why I started using AI.
Awesome. Well, on that note, Jason, thank you for sharing. Ira, thank you for the insight. Ines, why don't you tell us what you were working on here, because your Figma board looks wild.
Yeah, it's a bit shocking to see all of your other very organized. Anyway, this is highly unorganized. It's a little bit of a peek into my brain currently and at most times.
I love it.
Cool. Glad you do. So I guess I should start with, you're looking at a sort of a found image archive. I started collecting images. So that text part is a little bit too complicated to explain in these few minutes. I'm happy to touch upon it further, but maybe we'll look at towards the other side of the Figma board first. Thank you. I appreciate you navigating this mess.
All good.
So essentially, the project kind of started with this story, the Baba Yaga story. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that sort of myth. I'm originally from Finland, and I had a nice conversation with a friend of mine, Tanya Brodsky, who's a sculptor here in LA, who's Ukrainian, and we sort of realized we had the same childhood bedtime story, but that was radically different because of the translation. And after looking a little bit into Baba Yaga, it's sort of a very strange story. And what's striking about it is it has these different versions, one from Russia, one from Ukraine, one from Finland, one from Karelia, which has been a contested kind of geographical zone for a long time. And what's interesting in that is the kind of slippage and the mistranslations that happen in that story. And so, not to babble about this too long, but it's kind of essential to understand the images, is that, in a way, what AI is really, what's so fascinating about, especially like large language models, etc., there's still this sort of black box phenomena that you throw something in, something else comes out. You don't exactly fully know what happens in the black box. And so it's kind of parallel of like the magician's black hat, or magical thought and magical thinking in general, myth making in general. I think those are quite aligned with this kind of tool set that's available. And so I'm interested in connecting those or creating those relations. And so Baba Yaga's story, Baba Yaga the witch, in a way she has these set of objects that she uses to throw off this other character. There's like a comb, there's a butter, there's a needle, there's an egg. And so all this to say, I've sort of created a daisy chain of different AI models that I throw an image into. So the daisy chain, starting with a Google search, right? To Google the first AI in this process, that I put in a word and a set of images come through. I pick an image. That image gets into, I put it into like a seeing AI. Then that gets translated into text, that text into text to sound, and then back from sound to text and text to image. And the sort of spiral continues. And what that does is, what I'm really interested is it's sort of kind of, again, going back to when does the model, the AI kind of break? When does the sort of seam come through? And the mistranslation is kind of where I find it interesting. So for example, I start with a curl of butter, and the curl of butter ends up becoming the snail on a leaf, and the leaf then goes back into being butter. So it's this very weird sort of analogy. That's kind of one of the side branches. And so I don't know if anything that I said makes sense, but sort of is logical to me. And in a way, I'm also interested in this way where the viewer, so I'm hoping this ends up being a video, and I'm hoping that the viewer in a way becomes the AI, like the video sort of training you, kind of this reversal of a training set, I guess. And I'm interested in semiotics also, and so that's sort of in there. Yeah, Chris, I feel like I just babbled. Is there anything I should add? We've had so many discussions about this. You've been so helpful.
I love hearing you talk about it. It's so great. It brings so much insight to what we're seeing here. I mean, the only thing I would add is that there are actual films, like short films or tests at least, that you've already produced that are on this Figma board that, if anybody's interested, you can go and watch. There's like a 1.5 minute long one, another one that I think is 90 seconds. There's like 3, I think now, maybe 4. And they sort of, the format of your filmmaking, because really these are going to end up as films or as a film. And it's still sort of, I think you're deciding in an exhibition context if it will be like, a loop or, discrete, standalone linear film. But like, I love the format because you've actually introduced the sound. You said it went from image to text to sound back to image. You've introduced the sound, which is a deep fake of your own voice, as the narrator to the video. And the film is showing these images. And then you're hearing Ines, right? Or a version of you describing what's on screen. And it begins to break down. And I just love that. I love that experience, that process. It sort of becomes a sublime experience of, transmutation or something.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I mean, the sound is definitely a big aspect of the project. I make sort of this messed up deep fake of my own voice, so I end up talking all these other languages that I've never spoken. But one thing that's interesting, of course, just from the very basic, like in, that's one of the clips, for example. But what happens is, obviously different languages, different terms end up giving different things. This one, for example, I was Googling in Finnish an egg. It ended up being a Russian egg, and suddenly you have these kind of oval portraits of the Romanovs as a Russian egg. So this kind of absurdist translation that becomes very strange anyway. Yeah, so translation is also part of that, and sound.
And these films do have sound, which probably we won't watch them here, but
no. But if you guys would like to check out any of these Figma boards, they're all available for you guys to go and look at air.civitai.com.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. So where else should we go? I mean, Inez, were you done talking, or did you have more? There's so much here.
I know. I guess the other thing I would say, I find it also really fascinating the way kind of my AI usage is pretty limited on user-friendly apps. I haven't programmed anything myself. I'm using, Seeing AI, I'm using Speechify, AI Voicer, things like that. And it's fascinating how the framework or these apps operate. And so there's certain, I guess what I'm trying to say is that working within these tied frameworks is actually really liberating for the project because it tells me where to go next. Like if I see that the app can't pronounce butter in French, that's exciting, and that's where I'm going. And so I guess, again, thinking about the crack or the seam is really sort of the pointer for the project. And it's like a nice lead. But yeah, I still need to kind of explore the Civitai website itself and thinking about stable diffusion and such. That's my next kind of step. So that's all I wanted to say.
What are the tools that you've been using so far?
Yeah, so outside of Google, obviously, AI Voicer is one app. So I tried Speechify, but they can't understand my accent, so I couldn't do my deepfake in it. Seeing AI is a big one. It's in a way live transforms the image, sees this image and transforms it into a voice or text. And then, sound type AI. I also used, oh my goodness, I forget now. There was one stable diffusion.
Well, we have a question specifically for you from the chat on the screen, Ines, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, because a lot of people can be stressful to some degree. Chaos, how do you come up with a starting point? Yeah, great question. It's about, making a choice and sticking, choosing something and just going with that, even though at some point you realize maybe it wasn't the right choice. It's about making the choice. I'd say I usually start with either a story, in this case a myth, but also sometimes it's just research. And when you kind of have an idea that something is resonating with an idea, you kind of just grab onto it, and that's the starting point. Trying to think if there's any other way to articulate it. But yeah, often text, honestly, something written is often the beginning point.
I wanted to make a quick comment, if that's okay.
Please.
I think there's a really interesting overlap. You're talking about language and interpretation of language with AI and how things are captioned and the auto-captioning even in Civitai AI. It misinterprets that data based on how much information is put in that signifies one object looks like something that it's not, right? So there's this really crazy overlap happening between your work and what's happening in how AI identifies things as well, too, in even our own captioning.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for saying that, Jason. That's such a good point. I had a really quick random example, and maybe Anne, you can speak to this, but in terms of language, there's a very famous traditional French dessert called Île Flottante, one of my favorites. And of course, when you talk about that, the literal translation is a floating island. And so, you have these kind of moments where not only it'll misidentify based on the training set, but it also just by culture, that cultural. I mean, that's an obvious point, but just it's fun. I don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, that the sheer amount of differentiation between everything you all are doing and the way that you all are utilizing this time with us, I think is absolutely incredible. So first off, thank you, all of you, for coming on and sharing your process and kind of all your different forms of chaos with us, because at the end of the day, that's kind of all this is, what we're all doing, right? Is taking the chaos in our head and trying to make it make sense somewhere and using this new technology to do so. Chris, you have anything you want to kind of add at the end there?
Yeah, I think I've been kind of background processing that comment, and I can't see the chat. I'm probably doing something wrong. but I think it was Dever or somebody who asked, how do you get a starting point? Yes. And I think that that's actually a really great touchstone for kind of what we're trying to represent here or dive into. Like, you can be the best, you can have the best artistic rendering skills in the world, but unless you make that decision on where to point your rendering skills or where to point the AI in this case, it's not going to amount to much, right? You just have like, really well rendered things, but like that's sort of like the artistic magic that we're trying to capture. And I think is becoming more and more important in the age of AI, those initial conditions, right? If you want to bring it back to like physics or something, like it's like, where do we start from and where does the artist choose to move from there? And then they can implement any tools they want, any chain of tools they want to sort of give you permutations or evolutions of that initial impulse. But really, like, the core idea that starts from the artist I think is just becoming more and more important. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to say that because it's sort of how we explore the world, and why artists are valuable is because they get to, they sort of point us in new directions consistently, over and over again, showing us new ways to look at the world. And, it can't be done without that, initial impetus to begin.
I am still a firm believer that as these tools evolve and everybody eventually has the ability to make anything they want, the only thing sacred to all of us going forward will continue to just be our ideas.
Exactly.
And the ideas are the great differentiator between everything. And this little roundtable session we just had just goes to prove how drastically different and cool everyone's ideas can be, and how even though we're all using the same tools and somehow trying to get to the same place, different roads, because we all have different experiences, and our different experiences are what form the ideas that bring us to what we eventually want to create. So to me, that's the coolest thing. And I always try to tell everyone, it's just as important to cultivate your ideas and your taste as it is your skills with the new software and the new technology. Do any of you guys have any kind of, how about we do this? Let's go kind of around, and everyone, any final thoughts, and also let the people know if they would like to keep up with you, where they can find you on social media or your website. So how about Keion, we'll start with you, and then we'll just kind of work down and finish off with Jason.
Hello. No final words. I actually deactivated my Instagram for like a month. I reactivated it today. So you can find me at Keion 211. You'll see a lot of poetry and paintings there. Thank you. Peace out.
Right on, Keion. Thank you so much, man. Good luck with everything you're working on too. Ines.
Yeah, I have an Instagram, contemplating on deactivating it, but I have not. First initial I and then last name, Kivimäki, is my Instagram. So feel free to, look there. And of course, my email is my first and last name at gmail.com. And thanks. This was great. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Ines, thank you so much. I'm going to type out your last name for them so they can find you on Instagram. Boom. Anne.
Final thoughts, not final at all. Like, this is so inspiring. And there are so many things to say about, like, there are so many just little tiny topics that we just like pointed out, and we could just like write so many theses about all of the subjects, the matter of language and the communication, and the fact that AI is a way to connect our brain to a machine and let the machine dream for us. This is kind of like a fantasy I always had, to have like a machine make my dreams in images. It's kind of like, I feel AI is kind of like going in this direction. But yeah, so many things to say and too little time, but I'm always posting stuff about what I'm thinking on social media. So my Instagram is Anne Horel, Horel, and I'm everywhere. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok, Snapchat. Go find me if you want to chat.
Amazing. And thank you so much. And thank you again for joining us past midnight.
It's okay. I'm
I always say that when you are dabbling in AI, time becomes a fluid concept. Ira, let everyone know where they can find you and any final thoughts here.
So I mostly still post, perhaps regrettably, on Twitter at Ira Greenberg. I'm on Instagram too, greenberg.ira, but it's always, my first place is X because I have big community there. My final thought is just, which I think everybody's doing, is thinking about the materiality of whatever medium we're using. So all of a sudden AI or code is really no different than sculpture, or clay, or paint. Just has its own unique material properties. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Pleasure to see you again. And Jason.
I guess my final thought is that the way we sort of get forward in a lot of the things that we're thinking is sharing and through communication, but also through programs like AIR. Without those, it's sort of hard to get the work out, and it's been pretty incredible. So I hope more people see that and start learning from it, but also just reach out and talk to each other. And I'm always around too. So you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Jason Baylor Losh. And just excited to be a part of the community. And it's really exciting to be in this group of people who have some really great things coming out.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much. Chris, you wanna say any final things about AIR, or let people know about anything they need to know about the Artist in Residence program before I kind of close us out here?
Yeah, you can follow our new Instagram account, which we just started specifically for AIR. So we've got like 20 followers. Let's try and pump those numbers up. It is Civitai _AIR. And
you can also find that through the main Civitai page on the collaborative post that you'll see on there.
You got it. Yep. And then you can also see everybody's Figma boards on air.civitai.com. So you can watch all the artists in the process of creation. It is their digital studio. You can literally see their mouses moving in there if they're actively working in the studio. It's kind of cool. Yeah, just keep up with the program. Oh, I write a little column that's published on air.civitai.com about the artist's work. That's bi-weekly. I think we're at Studio Update 11, which just came out or is coming out today. So if you're curious to read a little bit more about the context of the work, those come out every 2 weeks and they're on the AIR site as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for attending, and so cool to get all the artists together in one room. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. No, we definitely have to make this a regular occurrence for whoever is currently active in the program, because not only was it cool to see everyone in the room at one time, it is selfishly cool to be able to like get bombarded with so many different perspectives and cool ideas all at one time. So thank you guys, because that's my selfish little ta-ta for getting to do this. So yeah, everyone, this has been our very first Civitai Artist in Residence Studio Roundtable. I hope you all enjoyed this and got some nuggets in there. I know I did. Please go check out air.civitai.com. Give these guys a follow on social so you can keep up with their projects as they develop. We will be back on Monday with Ali with our Civitai office hours. And then you will see me again on Thursday for another one of our Civitai AI video and animation sessions. We might do another AI artist hour with Midjourney Man as we react and crawl through all of the coolest AI content across social media. So with that being said, everyone, we appreciate you. Civitai.com. Flux Laura training is now active and available on the site. Go get your Flux on, and we will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go to air.civitai.com and follow us at Instagram at Civitai _AIR. And we are out. Appreciate you all.